this deck profile for Dracoslayer, I'm showing you a new build that I think is going to be really effective in PHOTON HYPERNOVA. Yes, the Kashtira blocking zones is actually really toxic and it's kind of an FTK against pendulums, but in this build our plan is to disrupt the opponent and stop them from even getting there in the first place. Real quick though guys, make sure to like, comment and subscribe so the YouTube algorithm sees us. Let's get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of January and let's start off 2023 with a bang. The first card we're running in the deck profile is Dynamite Power Load. We're running this at 3 because it is the best Dracoslayer after the Majesty Pegasus, because you can special summon a Dracoslayer from the other scale. And what that means is you go into a really easy Beyond the Pendulum, and sometimes you can even go for a cheeky Ignista if your Dynamite is able to special summon the Master Pendulum, the Tuna Monster. And the next up we are running the Bubunkus, and they're running 3 Majesty Pegasus. You've noticed here I'm running 4 copies of Dynamite Power Load, 5 copies of Majesty Pegasus, and then we are running 4 copies of the Ignis Phoenix. Of course, Majesty Pegasus is the card that searches your field spell and is probably, you know, the strongest effect we have in the deck after the Ignista, and it's soft once per turn. So you want to make sure you're always able to special summon this card either by a Pendulum Summon or by a Dracoslayer. 3 Luster Pendulum. Luster Pendulum is your tuner, and it's level 4, so you can go to the Ignista really easily. But keep in mind that you actually can't go into non-Dracoslayer extra deck monsters with the Luster Pendulum, so keep that in mind. So if you want to do like a Starlight Burn play or something, you might have a little bit of trouble doing that. And they'll be running 1 Master Pendulum. I'm debating whether to take this card out completely, but because it is a name, because it's a scale 3, when you need to clear your pen zone to put the odd eyes there to do, you know, the Ignis to special summon. Aside from that, he is very conflictive with the Beyond the Pendulum, unfortunately, because he's a normal monster. It doesn't let you go into Beyond the Pendulum because she needs 2 monsters, including a effect monster. This guy is absolutely insane. And one thing I've realized in my testing, okay, sometimes we can't OTK them and the game goes on for, you know, another turn or 2, and because of that we sometimes run out of resources. But one thing I've started to do is actually hard summon the Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon and shuffle everything from the grave and the field into the deck, which means we also get all our extra deck monsters back and we can go crazy. So that's just something I want to shout out. We can't talk about Odd Eyes without mentioning its soft once per turn, but both its search effect and its special summon effect, which is really strong. So it helps you bring back your Ignista, do more, you know, bounces and get rid of cards on the field. Next up, 2 Skullcrowbat Joker. So I want to just quickly say we are not running the Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon build or combo, and the main reason why is I'm using a deck that is going to be more, I guess, powerful against the Kashtira strategy. We are not hard countering Kashtira by any means, because I don't think that's the right move. But as far as what the main deck is, we're using cards that can do really well against it, and this is more of a aggressive Dracoslayer build. We're running 2 Harmonizing Magician and 2 Purple Poison Magician. Because of a certain card in my main deck, I wanted to run 3 Purple Poison, so it's not banished. If you can get to Harmonizing, you know, during or before Beyond the Pendulum, you're good to go, and that is such a crazy power spike. That said though, I was considering taking this whole engine out because I want to add in something completely different. If you really think Kashtira is in your locals and everyone is playing it, I could throw in some Chaos Hunters and take out the Harmonizing engine. It's not really part of the Dracoslayer, it's just something we have. This is the last Pendulum monster here on Amorphage Sloth. So of all the craziness that Dracoslayer has, this is the one thing I've stuck to, and because the Ignista is a dragon, it can special Luster from the deck, which is a dragon. You can go into Heavenly Spheres really easily. Next up, we are running Kashtira Divine Carnate. If you've been watching the polls, if you've been interacting with them, something that people have been voting on recently is Kashtira Divine Carnate. If your opponent activates any monster effects only in the main monster zone during that turn, then you contribute all of them to special summon Kashtira Divine Carnate. And against Shangri-Ira, against the Kashtira strategy, they chain a lot of their monster effect all at the same time once something is banished, so you can bait them really easily and then take them all out with the Kashtira, and that's why we're keeping Kashtira in the main deck. We were talking about being disruptive to the opponent, not letting them play the game, and I thought to myself, hang on a minute, yes, Terrament, you know, can plus off of the Nibiru, but if you couple Nibiru with a card like Effect Veiler, a Mona Chill, or an Impermanence, then I think you're in for a good time, because your Nibiru is going to go off way more than you think it will. And then one thing you got to realize is, yes, Terrament have the Raw Kalos, which is annoying because it gets rid of the Nibiru. But against Kashtira, the problem deck, right, the FTK that they give us, we can use the Nibiru to get rid of their whole board and have a good time. So that's why we're running Nibiru, the Veiler, and the Ghost Mourner. Yes, we are running Ghost Mourner at 2 and Effect Veiler at 1. And the main reason is this card is a hard once per turn, so I didn't want it to clash too much with Effect Veiler. Because they're both effect monsters, we can just normal summon them and go to the Beyond the Pendulum, so they're not completely useless. So one thing I want to shout is we are not running Bestials in this deck, they're actually in our side deck, and because they're in our side deck, the Impermanences won't clash because Bestials are on the field. So I like that aspect that we've put into the deck now. 3 more cards, so obviously of course Skyris is an absolute mandatory card you have to run. This searches your Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon, and the Odd Eyes Revelation Dragon, you know, is what X Factor. It's one of the scariest cards in the deck. So next card I'm talking about is Pot of Desires. Oh yeah, man, Pot of Desires is an interesting one. I did not think I would be going back to this card after my very OG build, which I'll put on the screen if you want to watch that. I do talk about the theory about this card a lot. A lot of these cards have more than 3 copies. We have 5 Majesty Pegasus, we have 4 Ignis Phoenix, and 4 Dynamite Paolo. Desires is actually really strong, and then the rest of the deck is the same thing. You got a lot of 3-ofs in the deck, and if you play during the Sword Soul format, if you're playing Master Duel right now, then you know how popular Pot of Desires is. And the reasoning behind why you're playing Sword Soul is kind of the same reason here, is because it's very consistent and it doesn't clash with what you're trying to do with the deck as much. Yes, there is the one of Amorphage Sloth, and that's the only awkward part. Maybe the Purple Poison Magician and Harmonizing combo. And I was testing Pot of Prosperity, but what I realized is in Dracoslayer, you really do go through your entire extra deck. You know, having cards to banish can be awkward because you might need that card later on, but Pot of Desires is a fast way. It's a pot of greed basically. And when you're running cards like the Kurikara, hand traps, maybe you finished your whole combo and you got nothing else to do, so activate Pot of Desires and search for those hand traps. So guys, that is the main deck for this new build of Dracoslayer. Again, this build is focused on interrupting the opponent. If you're reading that your opponent is a Kashtira player, you have hand traps to stop them, but you also have insane side deck cards. So we move on to the side deck at the end. Let's go into the extra deck now. For the extra deck, we're going to be running the Elixir of Prominence. This is the reason why I play Dracoslayer. It's so fun to use and you can bounce so many cards into the deck that you don't really have to worry about half the time what Terran even does. You just spin them back if they play on your turn, and if you're able to combo through that. Next up is Dinos the Power, Match the Paladin, part of your combo piece. If you're curious about the combo, by the way, for Dracoslayer, maybe you clicked on this video just to learn what the deck is about. Highly recommend checking out my Dracoslayer playlist if you want to learn the combo. And then moving on, IP Masquerader and Heavenly Sphere. These are a non-pendulum link too, so I still like the IP engine. I see a lot of people take it out, but personally I really enjoy it. And sometimes you have a lot of bodies on board that you just want to get rid of, so you try this IP version instead. And yes, you do lose to Dark Normal with the IP combo, but you can also search the Solemn Judgment post side deck, so I don't think it's much of an issue. And then next we're running 2 Beyond the Pendulum. If you're able to run 1 Beyond the Pendulum and you still do well, hats off to you, but I like having a second one because it's not a once per turn to do the pendulum search. So if your first one gets negated, get into a second one and do your search and pendulum summon. So Celine is your link extender, and with your Magister Paladin combo you can bring back whatever spellcaster is under the overlay materials. Next up, we're running Access Code and Zelantis. So what I've noticed is I'm using Zelantis way more these days because of maybe the way the deck is built now. Zelantis is great to maximize the board. 1 Appaloosa. So Appaloosa is something you summoned quite often in Dracoslayer, and then the Hope Harbinger, and then next up a Meta Check, Abyss Dweller. I may take it out for a Baguska. Moving to the side deck now, that was the extra deck. We're running 3 Solemn Judgment with our Guiding Ariadne. You might only need to know guide for Dracoslayer. I go through various different types of Dracoslayer decks, and one thing I mentioned was the Gravity Collapse, which is another card you can run instead of Solemn Judgment, but I think running 3 Solemn Judgment is just, you know, sometimes it works out better, it's more consistent. Do I think the Gravity Collapse is bad? Absolutely not. I think that card is busted and it's really funny when it gets pulled off. Here we're running Druid Swarm and Magnum. Kashtira Fenrir, it's a nice way to extend into the Beyond the Pendulum. You could argue a powerful spell of trap is more powerful than just a monster, but honestly this card can win games by himself. Next is the Necrovalley in the Zombie World, and here it is. There is the evenly matched. One card I want to shout out is Chaos Hunter. So Chaos Hunter is obviously the card you can use to counter Kashtira. When the opponent special summons Kashtira Fenrir, special summons Kashtira Unicorn, you can actually discard a card, special Chaos Hunter, and they can't banish, so the Fenrir can't even try to get rid of Chaos Hunter, and then the Shangri-Ira can't even block your Pendulum Zones. I think if you're playing against too much Kashtira, definitely throw it in, but for now, running it out of the side deck until I see more representation. If there's one card I would take out for Chaos Hunter, it would probably be the Kashtira Fenrir. And guys, that's been the deck profile for Dracoslayer. Hope you guys enjoyed it. This is a build that I think is going to really well against Kashtira and blind game 1. If you go second, I think the hand trap is going to carry you a lot more than you think, and with that Nibiru, Osmona, Implant Veiler combo, I think you can actually stop the Rule Kalos and have a good time. And that's been the video, guys. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and if that being said, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.